All right, my first YouTube video. I should probably have some kind of fancy introduction, but I ain't there yet. And so I'm just going to go into this pretty raw dog. Um, so, my name's Chris Bickley. I coach lifestyle and competitive athletes through nutrition and training. I'm also a massage therapist. I wanted to get on here and kind of start the ball rolling with creating some YouTube content, longer form content, so that I could start directing, be it people that wanted to know more about me, clients, maybe some more educational content. I am not someone that does well with trying to shove a shit ton of information into a 30, 60, 90-second video. It just doesn't work with the way my brain processes. I'm extremely dyslexic, pretty ADHD as well. However, I don't use those things as an excuse why I can't get things done. Obviously, I have worked my way into being able to function how I need to be successful, at least to this point. So, but I kind of want to go through background and go from there. So I grew up in Michigan. Specifically, my hometown was Jackson, Michigan. All the time I tell people Detroit, just simpler and easier. People know where Detroit is. My hometown's about an hour and 15 minutes from Detroit, west. Pretty much a suburbia town. I started in sports around the age of like 4, 5 range. I remember my mom put me in gymnastics. I was way too ADD for that. I was running all over the place. That lasted one time. Then I went to a karate class early on. I was intimidated and didn't want to do it, and so my dad took me away from that. That was only one session, and then I found soccer, which is funny because I started playing soccer pretty regularly in the rec leagues, and then but I was not like one of those hyper competitive kids. I was like the kid that was chasing butterflies on the soccer field, like where the parents are going like, bro, fucking go play. However, what's funny is, so I did like 4 or 5 years of that. And what's funny about that is, and I'll bring it up when I went to high school, apparently I learned some shit when I was not the best athlete at that time. Went from there, when I got into middle school, I did cross country for a season. Hated that, but it did teach me some shit. Mostly just taught me that I don't like running for longer than like 15-20 minutes. But no, then I found swimming, and swimming was the first sport I ever really took seriously. Mostly just because it was like therapeutic and I enjoyed it. I love swimming, just in general. So to have to swim on a regular basis was not an issue. Also, I could eat copious amounts of food and never get fat. When you're swimming 2 to 4 hours a day, yeah, no, that ain't happening if you've ever looked at the Michael Phelps shit, and how he used to eat. But did that for a couple years, or 3 years, 4 years, 4 years, yeah, 4 years, and then I might be skipping over stuff, but if you have any questions, please comment below. I'm happy to answer questions later. I want to. 9th grade, I was swimming, but I actually failed out of my freshman year of high school. I was on a pretty bad track. Growing up in the area that I grew up in, not a whole lot of people are successful. A lot of people are into drugs and so on and so forth. And I was kind of down this track where I didn't want to be at school, so I didn't really care about it. And I also, we later found out, suffer from a sleep disorder, idiopathic hypersomnia. Idiopathic means they can't explain it, not narcoleptic, but I fall asleep driving, I fall asleep everywhere. However, as an adult, I have learned to control it much better, and mostly through like diet, exercise, good sleep hygiene, etc. And so in my ninth grade year, transferred to, or I was at a very, very big high school. I want to say in the range of like 3,000 kids, maybe it was less. But I, kind of got lost in the mix. There was like 40 kids in each class, and I'm sitting in the back, falling asleep. I didn't care to be there, so I flunked out, and I ended up. My dad told me I either needed to choose between going to military school or going to Christian school. And so I had told him, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to go in the military, so I'll go to the Christian school. That's on the other side of town, where the fancy kids live. And so transferred there. Even though I failed my freshman year, they allowed me to continue to progress into my 10th grade year. They were just going to hold me to a higher standard than I had. Also at that time in my life, my dad had moved from living like 3 or 4 hours away to live in my hometown. Him and I actually built the first house I've ever built together with him, and that was a tremendous experience. I still use those lessons today, but I also finally had my stepdad was great. I love him tremendously. Ex-stepfather now, but stepfather growing up was a great, father figure at the time, but I really needed my dad, and my dad stepping in my life really made a big difference. As a young man, there's at some point where you probably need your dad around, or some male figure that's going to kick your ass or push you in the right direction, and that was my dad. So anyways, I transferred to this private school, and I just like sports. I liked being competitive, and I got there, and I didn't really understand the whole private school thing. Later I found out that if a private school in the state of Michigan does not provide the sport that you want to play, you're allowed to go to one of the other schools in the area. I didn't know that, or I probably would have continued swimming or playing like football or something, but I just looked at the school and looked what was popular, and they were one of the best schools in the state at the level that they were at basketball, and so I decided I was going to play basketball. And my dad loved basketball, and so did my mom, so it was one of those things where it was kind of an easy sell for me, but I wasn't good at all. The big thing I had was hustle. And, kind of going into the conversation related to coaching, this is where my interest in coaching really starts to set in. I had a great swimming coach who I believe had worked in either the Junior Olympics or the Olympics. He was a high-level coach, but when I met Carl Drake, and if someone sees this video that knows Carl Drake, you can let him know that I still greatly, deeply appreciate him and who he is and the impact he had on my life. He was the head coach of the junior varsity team, and as soon as he started to see my hustle and my willingness to listen, and I was very, very coachable. I wanted to get better. He started investing in me, and I quickly went from, just kind of being this like Dennis Rodman type player. I just crazy hustle, but I didn't really have any offensive game at all, to spending a lot of time with him, doing shooting drills and stuff like that. Then that summer, after my sophomore year, my dad had seen my interest in basketball, so he started sending me to some camps. I slowly started getting better, but I remember my junior year, it was a battle between me and one of the other guys on the team as far as, you know, that 12th spot on the team for the varsity. And Carl Drake came up to me and he's like, "Are you going to give it your all? Are you gonna, be in here early? You gonna, train late? You gonna push these guys? Because the position you're in, you're gonna be pushing the starters more than anything." And I was like, yeah. I was like, if every day practice is my game, I'm more than willing to give that. And so, with that said, I got on the varsity team my sophomore year or junior year, and then we had a crazy good season. I didn't play a whole lot. I hustled and I was good at defense, but I was pretty sloppy on offense still, so I didn't really add any benefit there. I would go in for rebounding and for defense, and that's about it. Senior year, I continued, educating myself and continued working. Also, during these times while I was at this private school, my dad actually hired a tutor for me to basically every school day go to his house afterwards to study for real because I wasn't good at studying in school. And Stephen Devereaux, which again, if someone knows Stephen, I will never forget him. Made a huge impact in my life, and I probably would have never made it through school without him. He was, like the smartest kid in the school, and one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life, just in so many ways. So I got to my senior year, and I keep talking about basketball. I also played golf. My stepdad, Doug Hansen, you can Google him, he was in the PGA. So I was raised playing a lot of golf. I was not great at it. I was one of those people that was exposed to the fundamentals and really the foundational stuff of golf early on, so it made me better than a lot of people, especially for my age, but I was nothing special. I love playing golf, I just never do it anymore. But anyways, I played golf, and then my senior year, I wanted to get in shape for the basketball season, which was in the winter, and so I decided I was going to jump on the soccer team, which was an interesting experience because I actually think I was probably better at soccer than anything else. I don't know why I didn't know that. Playing basketball taught me a lot about defense and lateral movement. And once I applied that with my experience of just rec and just playing with the ball, I think that was probably my biggest thing with soccer is I just played with the ball all the time. I actually, the team was already very good. I jumped in, and I think I angered a number of parents where their kids were on junior varsity because they were ready to move up, and I jumped in, and I think I even started a few games, which threw people off. I was very, very good at defense for soccer. I can say that arrogantly. And yeah, no, the season went well, but the main thing is I wanted to get in shape and be in condition, just running. That was the main thing because I hated running and I wasn't going to do it unless there was a whole team doing it. So anyways, went to the basketball season. We went 20-0, and then we went to the playoffs. We beat a number of people or a number of teams. I believe we made it to the quarterfinals or semifinals. I don't remember. I think it was quarterfinals. And then we lost. The only loss of the season was on the way to the state championships. That was great, but again, as much as I would like to say that I was a huge part in that, I wasn't. Like I really played hard during practice. That's where I learned it made a difference, was for me to be hard and push the other guys, because every practice was my game. I luckily, somewhere during that season, I think during the playoffs, I had one game where the guy in front of me fouled out. I came in, I had 4 threes and a single free throw that I made, and I had like 5 or 6 rebounds and like a couple steals or something. Anyways, I got noticed by a basketball coach from a small school, small Christian college, that picked me up or told me to come try out, walk onto the team, and that he was holding that summer he was going to hold some open gyms and tryouts and see if I could make it on the team. And I was pretty excited because I had no ambitions to necessarily go to college. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I'm sure a lot of you can say the same when you're in high school. Some people I think are super locked in. I think others just are fucking clueless, and I was clueless. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I loved playing sports, but I didn't really have anything else I was super ambitious toward, I guess. And I had worked 1 to 2 jobs basically since I turned 14. I liked having money. I liked earning money. I worked at an oil change. I worked at a golf driving range, and I worked at a gas station. I believe those were my 3 main jobs when I was in high school. Then I went to this tryout, and I'm sharing these details. They might not be interesting, but this is just kind of how I got to where I am with sports and fitness. But I went to this tryout for the basketball team, for this small Great Lakes Christian College. If you want to look it up, it's part of the NCCAA. I had the greatest game of basketball in my whole life. Still to this day, I wish I could replicate that. I think it was really, I just didn't give a fuck. I just had very low expectations for myself. Kind of like, I guess I'm here, just leave it all on the floor. And I want to say in the game that we played, it was 5 versus 5. I'm pretty sure I had like 30, 35 points. I was just making threes like Stephen Curry style, which was stupid. And I think that's the only reason why I really got on the team. Then I played in college my freshman year, and that was an interesting experience. I, again, wasn't great. I think I averaged like 3 points a game. I had a high free throw percentage, which was awesome. I think I had either high 80s or low 90s for my free throw percentage, which is great. I pretty sure I set the school record for most flagrant fouls in a season, and I only played half the season. Broke, I believe, one guy's collarbone and one guy's arm. I think that's right. I was bringing the street ball to this Christian college association. I hated, I was small. That's the other thing. I was small. I probably weighed like 150 pounds at 6 foot. When you get into college sports, even guys that are smaller, they weigh more. They're bulkier, and I was skinny and not as athletic. And so, anyways, I said I played half the season. It's because I was academically put on probation because I was trying to work multiple jobs, go to school. I was also on the jazz band, which I hadn't mentioned, but I played drums since I was like 6th grade, 5th grade, something like that. I was also in the jazz band, and so I was traveling for the band. I was traveling for sports. I was working 2 jobs. I was basically sleeping through my classes. I pissed off my teachers because, surprisingly enough, I was actually in school to become a minister. Well, not necessarily a minister, but I was on track to get a religious-based degree. But I was focusing on ancient Mesopotamian history, which I thought was extremely interesting. I took 2 400 classes, level 400, like senior classes, my freshman year. Ancient literature and ancient Mesopotamian history. and that was super interesting to me. But I would do really well in those classes just on tests, but I was failing them because I wasn't doing any homework and I wasn't studying and shit. So got him put on probation. Then I finished the year, left, went to go to a different community college because I wanted to play basketball again. I found out they were gonna uphold my suspension or probation because of my grades, and so I didn't want to wait a year. I left and dropped out, and then I actually moved to Florida to where my grandmother lived. I sold my car and used the money just to buy a plane ticket, flew down there. My grandmother and I didn't really get along, so I was in and out of her house while I was in Florida. I don't know why homeless people live anywhere other than sandy beaches. I would sleep on the beach and do that thing, and then go to her house, when I wanted food or a shower. But yeah, so there was that point in my life. Both my grandfathers were in the Navy, and so when I couldn't find a job down there, which I had filled out 50 plus applications, but down in the tourist areas, they try to find locals. They don't try to hire random people that no one knows. And so I didn't get a job, but I did sign up for the military. I signed up to be on submarines, and I actually started training with the SEALs down in Florida, or the Special Forces, and was fucking pretty damn good shape. I was really fucking tan because I was running on the beach all the time and all that shit. Went to boot camp, did that damn thing, went to the military, or went to C school, which is like education for your particular job after boot camp. Got really fat because I wasn't doing anything because I was on medical hold because I was in such good shape that my heart looked like it had an arrhythmia. And so I didn't do shit, gained a bunch of weight after boot camp, which sucks. And yeah, I don't know. That time was just me being lazy. Eventually did transfer, get on the boat. I got on a boat here in Washington. For those of you who don't know, I'm near Seattle now. But just like with my home in Michigan, I say near Seattle, live like an hour drive away from Seattle, in Kitsap County, in Silverdale, Washington. Yeah, and then went through that whole experience of being in the Navy. And that was really when I found weightlifting. After a year being on the boat from sea school and then being on the boat, I had gained like 50 pounds of fat, and I looked like shit, and it was the worst condition I had ever been in my life. If you've made it this far along, I got a specific story for you, but I remember waking up after a one-night stand with a very, very unattractive woman. And you know what? I'll tell you this part of the story. Part of that experience was I remember I was screwing this chick, and I got off, and I fucking busted the biggest fucking fart in my life right after I busted a nut. And yeah, that was pretty humiliating, on top of the fact that this person was not attractive at all. And so I went to the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and I just was like, bro, what the fuck? Like, you have that post-nut clarity, but it was like I was having life clarity, not just with that moment, but like, look at where you've gotten yourself. And so I went right to, I actually had to get on the boat, had to go to Guam. My boat was forward deployed out of Guam. And so it was like a month later, we were in Guam, and I had already started my fitness mission, which was to get back to having like a six-pack. And I had decided I was going to eat salads and chicken, and then whatever thing I put on top of it, and that was it. And then I'd have like a cheat meal, but at the time I didn't know it was a cheat meal. I just knew like once a week or once every few days I would have, specifically on the boat, I would have a peanut butter maple syrup waffle, and that was my go-to cheat meal on the boat. Oh fuck, it was so good. Yeah, and I ran 8 miles a day and did some calisthenic shit and abs, and I lost 50 pounds in 3 months. And I just kept doing that. And then when we got back to Washington, I signed up for a gym in Port Orchard, Washington called Olympic Gym. And there was a trainer there that was fucking jacked as fuck. And he was like 5'8", like 250 pounds, but like pretty, I think he had abs. He was probably the biggest influence into me becoming or getting into bodybuilding, but his approach to bodybuilding was more about like the lifestyle, and you know, you can eat like shit, you can eat pretty good and you know, look pretty good if you're training your ass off. That was kind of his approach, and he did a lot of like power building. He'd do really big heavy movements, but then he'd do all the accessory shit too. And he got me into that. But really what happened was I kept showing up to the gym, and I would run for an hour, my 8 miles, and I'd lift some weights after, and then I would step on the scale, and then I would leave. And I did that for a few months before this trainer came over and he literally snatched me by the shirt and pulled me in front of the mirror, and he was like, "Are women going to look at the scale, or are they going to look at you?" And I just always associated with being in shape and getting female attention, which at the time, you know, had pretty low confidence. I just wanted female attention, I guess. You know, like I wanted to like myself, of course, but liking myself was acknowledged by females. So when he grabbed me, fucking, you know, started talking to me and started showing me how to lift weights and all that stuff, and that progressed, you know, for a while, and then I found some friends, you know, throughout the gyms on the bases and stuff that eventually led to me going to a bodybuilding show, and I want to say it was the Ironman 2014 or 2013. Mike O'Hearn was guest posing. I remember that. It was my first bodybuilding show I'd ever gone to. And I was like, fuck, like, I want to look like these fucking people. How do I do that? And it was like a local show, so it wasn't anything crazy until I saw Mike, and Mike O'Hearn was like, I was like, fuck, dude, he looks like Superman. Like, of course, he played Superman. So, from there, I knew I wanted to get on a bodybuilding stage. Kind of had a speed bump in there where I found out I was having a daughter. So obviously I didn't want to prep or be in the middle of that when she was on her way. And so as soon as my daughter was born, I actually started prep, like right then and there for my first show. Did my first show, got dead last. I didn't even have fucking abs. Yeah, I was like in off-season shape for bodybuilding. For what I consider now to be off-season shape was what I stepped on stage in. Yeah, and so let me real quick, I'm looking at the questions I had to make sure that if there was anything, what led me to compete, got me into bodybuilding, answered that. What led me into coaching? Oh, so after my first show, there was a coach backstage, and I was just like, God, I'm so far away from where these guys are. I was still really skinny. Like, I think I weighed 170 pounds without abs my first show. And, like, I probably would have been like 150 pounds had I been, like, actually in shape. Coach backstage, you know, someone there in my ear was like, yeah, man, you need to take steroids. If you want to look like all these guys, you got to take steroids. And mind you, looking back, I really wish I had taken, you know, a step back and realized that I need to get better at training. I need to do better with my diet. And really, after that's all said and done, give my body some time to fucking grow as a natural athlete, but just in general, I hadn't been lifting weights for consistently, I guess is what I should say, for like a year and a half maybe at that point. And but this guy seemed credible. He had a couple of people in the show that looked great, and so I was like, okay, and did that. And so that leads me into what led me into coaching others. I got a list of questions right here that some people sent me. And I just realized I skipped over some stuff related to my college years. But anyways, I was doing pretty well from the standpoint of I was just doing what I was told, and that was making my body progress rather well at that point. And I think it was mostly just that I just needed to eat and I just needed to train, and now I added in drugs, which kind of just amplified everything I was already doing, even though I was doing a lot of shit wrong. But I was doing a lot right compared to the average person. So then I did my second show. I think I got fourth, which I will say is probably the only show out of my whole bodybuilding career that I was like, well, maybe one of two out of 15 shows I've done where I thought I should have done better. I thought I should have at least placed second. And when I look at my posing, I'm sure my posing was totally fucked, but just as a physique, I thought I deserved second. But regardless, as far as my mindset, I should have been last probably still, so whatever. And that was Michigan State Championships. But anyways, I started doing well, and the guy that was coaching me noticed that I have a knack for attention to detail and kind of understand what needs to happen for someone's body to change. What I didn't really notice is that I was kind of being groomed to help bring in more clients for him. He encouraged me to start coaching within a year of my first show, which nowadays is more of a regular thing. But back then I feel like it wasn't. Well, I started coaching people very early. I had some success, but I can tell you as far as lessons I had to learn, I way too quickly started telling people to take fucking drugs. And I had some mistakes associated with that, and I wish I could turn around and not make those mistakes, but unfortunately they happened and they're there. Where I affected other people's lives with the decisions that I made and whatnot, and I accept that. So anyways, I got into coaching and I kept coaching, but I had left the military and started working in an engineering code at the shipyard, the local shipyard, really doing what I would consider more paperwork, QA type shit. Just reviewing paperwork all fucking day. I mean, it's all engineering shit, but I was just a fucking desk jockey, and I hated it. But I loved coaching people, and just like I mentioned earlier with my head junior varsity coach, Carl Drake, it was one of those things where I realized that I loved helping people more than just about anything else. That was, to me, a job worth having. A service job was something worth having, and but I also really liked this fitness stuff, so how could I mix the two? And obviously there's personal training, but I didn't think I was great at doing that yet, or not knowledgeable enough yet. I don't know if my camera's still on. Oh, there we go, my shit went black. So I was doing part-time coaching and full-time working at the shipyard for a few years. Yeah, I competed a bunch of more times, kind of irrelevant. I can give you a bunch of stories about those. This video has been 34 minutes. I think that I'm going to leave it there. There is some more stuff here questions wise, but basically, so I had that period of competing from like when I started coaching and I was at the shipyard and stuff. And then when COVID came around, and this is where I'll leave it. When COVID came around, I was sitting in my office that year, between 8 to 12 hours a day by myself because I was considered essential personnel. I would sit there all day by myself at the computer, and it just sat there and marinating in the fact that I really, as much as that job paid me, I just fucking hated it. And every day was getting harder and harder and harder. And I was having disagreements with my bosses and stuff on a regular basis. And so I just, you know what, I'm going to make this coaching thing work. I'm going to start personal training. And I'm going to figure shit out because I know for my happiness moving forward in the rest of my life, I need to figure out, if it's not coaching, I need to figure out something that I can do that doesn't make me feel like I want to unalive myself as I get older. Some people are totally content with working those types of jobs as long as they're getting paid. I needed something fulfilling, and so I decided to dive into coaching full time back in 2020. Still at it today. I'm going to make another video. I'm going to see if anybody has any interest in this. But I'm just going to keep making videos and posting them. And this actually was a lot easier than I expected. But this is first take too, and probably is horrible. But I appreciate anyone and everyone that has, if you made it to this part, fuck. I probably owe you a big fucking hug. I'd say a kiss, but I don't know if I want to kiss all of you. So anyways, thank you, and I hope you guys have an outstanding day, evening, morning, whatever time of the day it is when you see this. All right.